Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is The Edge of Adventure. My name is Adam Asher. What a privilege and pleasure it is today to have Mercy Ships joining us. And from Mercy Ships, here to represent them and help us get to know this fantastic organization, is Kylie Best. Kylie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
It's great to have you. And truly, Mercy Ships is an organization that's been around a long time. It's one that I've known of for many, many years. Long before I had this dream of the edge of adventure, I knew about Mercy Ships. Give us the overview, though. If somebody doesn't know about this organization, about this incredible idea that you guys have, and this wonderful service you provide, give us the overview.
Wow, a little elevator pitch, I guess. There's so much involved with Mercy Ships, but what I normally tell people is, we've been here since 1978. And essentially, we have hospital ships that we serve West Africa, and we provide free surgeries. And not only free surgeries, but we also do medical capacity building where we're providing training to local professionals, and then we also keep relationships with their Ministry of Health and governments to try and rebuild their infrastructure and what their health systems look like. So eventually, we kind of work our way out of a job.
Yeah, this is first of all, it's fascinating, and it is also a massive undertaking. So let's start by the first delving into the first half of what you talked about. These these ships, these mercy ships that we would call them, what are they? If describe for me, what are we talking about here?
So, um, it's kind of gone from we've had multiple ships, but it's always gone from we're refitting ships. And so we've remodeled ships to be hospital ships. So the ORs are actually on ships. So the Africa Mercy, which has been in service for about, I guess, 12 or so years, um, was a rail cart ferry boat that we refitted. And we actually just launched our first purposefully built hospital ship called the Global Mercy. So everybody on ship is a volunteer. So that's kind of the brief synopsis. Most people think that we dock and do surgeries off the ship, and we do have buildings off ship for eye care and a dental clinic and stuff like that. But most of the things happen on ship. So that's why we're called Mercy ships.
So the concept, and again, as I get the privilege, I get the privilege of being the guy that doesn't know anything, right? That's my job. My job is to know nothing. And if I know nothing, then I know what questions to ask. So you're telling me that these are large, beautiful ships that have been repurposed so that you can uh, take them offshore to the different areas, in particular off the coast of West Africa, with the Africa Mercy, and it's like a hospital, right? In a way to think about it. It's like then you're able to go in, go onshore and then bring people who need medical care, who need surgeries, so on and so forth. You bring them from their countries. Again, it's not just West Africa, but that's the focus for this one in particular. Then, um, how does that work? How do you get the people from the countries who need the care, and then you bring them onto this mobile um, hospital. Walk me through the process because it's fascinating, it's amazing, and this cannot be an easy process.
No, absolutely not. So we're actually in a country. We call it a field service, 10 to 12 months out of the year, usually starting in August until June or July. And we're actually in country years before we actually serve there with an advanced team. And, we're talking to officials, to the president, because we actually have to be invited into country. They have to want us to be in country. And so we keep those relationships going. And so once we do that, we assess the need of that country. Um, what surgeries would be most beneficial for how long, because we are in a ship where we have limited capacity. So we have to have everything for a certain amount of surgeries on the ship because that's all that we can hold. And so we assess the need, and then we start getting the word out. And, you know, um, we give people, once they're screened, we're in country and we screen. They're given a date on a little card, and if they need transportation, we provide that because we found that most people in country couldn't. They were giving up their entire life, their entire earnings, everything just to come to ships. So they didn't have anything to go back to. So we started providing transportation, which can be like 8 hours away, and then bring them back, and have their life changing surgery. So that's pretty much a nutshell. It is a huge undertaking, but yes, we are on ships because we found that most populations live close to a port city, so we can dock there, and that way we can also serve multiple countries um, over time. So yeah.
Kylie Best is my guest today from Mercy Ships. You can look them up online at mercyships.org. And we're getting to know a bit more about this organization, their heart, and their passion. Kylie, is I was doing a little research on you and communicating and sort of preparing for this conversation. One of the things you mentioned was that you were drawn to Mercy Ships because of their passion. Tell me about that.
So I've worked for several nonprofits over the years. That's been my career. And I grew up in East Texas, so I've always known about Mercy Ships. I never really dove into it. And a few years ago, I was just put on this path that really led me here. I was thinking about moving back, and 3 days later, I had a job at Mercy Ships and started at recruiting. So, recruiting volunteers to volunteer on the ship, and provide this life changing surgery. And once you get in, I was like, I'm only going to move here for 2 years max. And you fall in love with the people here that want to serve. They have a heart for serving. Um, and the people that work here, it's just a family. But you also fall in love with the mission because you see, um, it truly does change people's lives. And I always like to tell people, especially coming from the recruiting side, um, you know, we, we're obviously known for changing surgery or changing lives through surgery, but most of the time we're also changing the lives of volunteers, and we even change. I know it's changed my life. So just all around, it just touches people's hearts, and it's hard not to fall in love with it.
Volunteers. Okay, wait a minute. Are you telling me that you've got a large number of volunteers that are making this
Yes.
possible? Okay,
Yeah.
again, I mean, I'm sort of setting you up because I happen to know this, and this is something that's fascinating to me, kind of mind-blowing to think that you've got these, massive ships and everything from what? You're telling me the crew to the medical, workers and the doctors and the nurses and the surgeons. I mean, these are all volunteers giving of their time to do
Yeah.
this.
Everybody from, like you said, everybody from the captain to our nurses, surgeons, down to, we actually have an academy on board because people give up their lives. For several years that we had to have an accredited school on board. And so, yeah, students graduate. It's crazy. People, most of the time people will sign up to serve 2 to 3 months, and 5 years later they're still there. So people are definitely called to do it. It's just something that was put in their path that they have that passion for, and something that God placed in their heart. And so definitely it's a floating city for sure. So the Africa Mercy can hold around like 430, and the Global Mercy can hold around 600 people that live and work on that ship. So yeah, it's a huge undertaking, but like I said, we kind of um, those roles fill themselves. So
Kylie Best is my guest today. We're talking mercy ships. You can look them up at mercyships.org. And I promise you, if you do, or if you look them up on social media, or if you just listen to this podcast, like me, you're going to start getting emotional thinking about all that they do and all the people that come together to make this happen. Tell me why the coast of West Africa has been an area of focus for mercy ships.
Yeah. So out of the 7.7 billion, world's population, 5 billion lack access to safe and affordable surgery. And we found that 93% of West Africa's population doesn't have that access. And so, we obviously know that there's need everywhere, everywhere could use a little help. But we wanted to start with the most need. And so that's really our focus in West Africa. And like I said, most populations live near a port city, which allows us easier access to get to that and just rebuild that infrastructure. But that's why West Africa right now. And, obviously we have Africa Mercy and Global Mercy. We do, I think, eventually hope to expand. Um, but that's where we're needed the most and we're welcomed and people know us and love us there. So that's why we're there right now.
Tell me then about the two ships. Africa Mercy, you've said, was the original ship. And tell me about the Global Mercy.
Yeah. So Africa Mercy, I will say, is the one that's been in field service for several years. We've had other ships. We had the Good Samaritan, the Caribbean Mercy, and the Anastasis. They're all obviously retired, but yes, the ones in service right now are Africa Mercy. Um, and then Global Mercy, which she just left China and she's on her way to be outfitted with all the hospital supplies. So after that, we'll hope to be in Africa sometime next year. Um, it's like I said, it's a huge undertaking. We do recruit volunteers for all of these, so we're more than or almost doubling the need for volunteers right now. So it's a super exciting time and shift in our organization to just not only double our ships, but we're really hoping to double the impact and the amount of lives that we can change.
So I've pulled this image back up on the screen. Those of you watching the video version getting to see images. And as I often say, the pictures are worth 1,000 words. And one day I'll measure how many thousand words we get into a podcast. I don't even know. But these pictures, if you were to count them as 1,000 words, it's a lot of words because there's real beauty and passion and meaning and purpose being conveyed even in the pictures as we're having this conversation. But here's a graphic that says volunteers from over 60 nations. Uh, so it's people coming together from all over the world to serve in this way.
It is. It's crazy, and most people. We are located here. The headquarters is in Texas, but collectively we have 16 international offices. So we are an international organization, and so our recruiting efforts are from everywhere. And it really is. Not only is it a floating city and a community, but it's international. So you can serve with someone from all the way across the world and get to know them. And it is crazy, and it's kind of a small world too. And so it's really encouraging to know that most people around, or I say most people, but a lot of people around the world know about mercy ships and fall in love with that passion. So um, the international part is a really fun part too. It feels more inclusive to try and solve this problem.
This is the Edge of Adventure. My name is Adam Asher. We're talking Mercy Ships today. The organization, you can look them up at mercyships.org. And Kylie Best works with the organization. She's in public relations. And you can tell by listening to her talk, she's great at her job. She's great. She's conveying all of this information very thoroughly. And that's always important. It's always important in these interviews to try to get all this information across to the listeners and the viewers, because if we're taking in this podcast, it's because we care about these things, and you guys are doing amazing work. So it's great to hear from you today, Kylie. Again, we have the video version, so let me pull this image back up on the screen. What are we looking at here in this particular photo?
This is the Global Mercy. So we've been working on her, I want to say, for 8 years, almost 8 years in the making, in China. So she is the first purposefully non government hospital ship built ever, which is crazy. It was a huge undertaking. I don't think that we ever thought we would ever get her, but recently she left China. She passed all her sea trials. Here in the picture is Jim Patterson. He was ahead of all of that. Spent a lot of time in China, going back and forth, and so he's waving goodbye, and she's on her way. On a journey. Hopefully, we'll lead her to Africa next year, and we can start our field services. You know, given everything that's going on right now. But that is our hope. And she's going to help us touch more lives and double that impact. So yeah, she's beautiful and almost twice the size of the Africa Mercy. So it's a super exciting time, and a super exciting shift in our organization.
It really is. You took the words out of my mouth there. I was going to say this is an exciting time. This is a
Yeah,
big moment for an organization that's been around a long time, and you've obviously mentioned through the years there have been different ships that are used and then ultimately decommissioned, but to have this global mercy uh, prepared and looking now at being able to use it in the near future. I don't know anything about this, but when I look at that ship, it looks immense. I mean, it looks like, well, you said it a minute ago. Um, it's a floating city. What kind of volunteers do you need to have this floating city? Because it's more than just the surgeons, the doctors, the medical
yeah,
personnel. It's got to be, if it's a floating city, you surely, I mean,
yeah.
people are living on this thing for months and years at a time. What kind of help do you guys need in terms of volunteers?
Yeah, it really does take a village. And, most people from our mission just assume they're like, oh, we can't volunteer because I'm not a nurse or I'm not a surgeon. But only 50% of our volunteers are medical. So we obviously we're a ship, so we need a maritime crew. And that's, 17% of our volunteers. So, we obviously have our captains, our deckhands, our engineers. We need, electricians, plumbers, vehicle mechanics. And then the other 33% is anywhere from IT staff, which we call IS, human resources. We need teachers, the galley staff. We have a chef. Anybody, we have to feed everyone, anywhere between 400 and 600 people, depending on your ship, every day. We have a chaplaincy on board. So it really, anything that you can think of that takes to run, what we have here at our headquarters is reflected on ships. So even all of these pictures and videos that we use for marketing, that comes from our communications team on board. So our photographers and videographers, our writers, they're all volunteers as well. So it really, you can find your place on board and really make your mark. So you don't have to be medical, is what we really try to emphasize. Is we're not just a medical mission. We need everybody, because it takes everyone to keep that ship running smoothly so we can change lives.
You mentioned chaplaincy, and I also know that you guys are a faith-based organization. I know you work with all types of people, and all types of people coming from different religions and backgrounds and culture and all of that. But I understand that there is some motivation that is behind mercy ships that comes from faith.
Yeah. So our mission, we do follow the 2,000-year-old model of Jesus Christ. And so just by serving and loving one another, despite, where we come from. Um, just by what we do and how we do it, we hope to change their lives, whether that's through surgery. Most patients will go into surgery and, someone asks if we can pray with them and they'll say no. And whenever, we remove their bandages, like for instance, we remove cataracts. So someone who's been blind their whole life and they can see for the first time. And they ask why, why do you guys do this? Why do you provide free surgery? And our volunteers can tell them, it's because we love Jesus, we have faith, and so we love you, and so we want you to have the best life that you can have. And that usually stems a conversation, and so we're able to change their lives in multiple ways. So most people become curious, I would say, after their surgery, because people are skeptical, people are shunned from their communities for their disabilities, and then afterwards, it's a 180, and yeah, we have to give that glory to God, and so we're not knocking on doors, and we're not evangelical, but that's the root of why we do what we do. Is so
That's an important point and fact, and it's something I like to bring up because I know that in popular culture, uh, it's often sort of told to us that faith and people who in Christians or whatever, right? I mean, it's often sort of we're told that that's a negative and that it somehow is a negative, right? Like that it's somehow a bad thing.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
and and yet I think in reality, and anyone who's just lived life and had the opportunity to serve with alongside of people of faith, that you realize that that kind of faith and that kind of relationship with Jesus Christ in this case, right? This is a motivating factor, and it drives you to serve, not to judge, but to serve. And I love to see that lived out, like in this case. I mean, and you guys aren't the only organization that does that, but you are one that is a great example of it. Just living out your faith and serving
Yeah.
and giving of yourself and making sacrifices because these are the things that faith will drive us to. This is the edge of adventure. I don't know, got on my soapbox there for a second. Kylie
No, I
Best
agree. Yeah.
Kylie Best is my guest today. She's from Mercy Ships. Talk to me, please, about the number of countries, at least even an approximate number of countries where Mercy Ships has been able to have an impact through the years.
Like I said, we are usually in West Africa, where we can dock in cities. And so it's usually, we've been to like Benin, Sierra Leone, Togo. We left Senegal last year. Before that, we were in Guinea. We're hoping to be back in Liberia next field service. Uganda. Um, we've been to all the way to Madagascar. So yeah, we've had a good number of countries invite us into their country to serve their people. They love us, and so we typically come back as well, um, which is I think is super awesome to see because you see statistically the difference. Once you build up their infrastructure and like their you train their professionals and you come back and we're like, okay, well, last time we saw X amount of need for a surgery. And, we go back this time and that need's not even there. So you can see the work that we're doing over time. So yeah, we've definitely hit a lot of countries and we're hoping to build relationships and get the word out about Mercy Ships and expand that. So yeah, I think our impact has been pretty great. And most people over there know who we are and they're excited to see us and excited to see us come back.
Now, I have in my notes here, is this correct? Mercy Ships was founded in 1978?
Yes,
Okay.
by Don and Dion Stevens.
And I bet you they had no idea. all that over the what? How we're talking about 4 decades plus here.
Yeah.
I bet you they had no idea the impact that it was gonna have and continues to have. Do you know the offhand the total number of ships through the years?
Um, I've got 5.
Fine.
So, yeah, Good Samaritan, Caribbean Mercy, Anastasis, Africa Mercy, Global Mercy. Is that 5? Yeah.
And this, again, as we discussed earlier, the Global Mercy, for me, looking at it, it looks like a huge ship. Do we know if that's the largest ship or
Yes, it is.
okay.
I mean, it's basically a cruise ship, size-wise, and so it's definitely grown through over the years, the sizes and ships. Because I mean, if you look at, you can look at our fleet on our website, mercyships.org, and you can see, the Good Samaritan and Caribbean Mercy were relatively small. Don Stevens had an idea, but we know, things don't. It's not one huge steps. It's small stepping stones to the bigger picture. Um, and so, the Anastasis was a little larger, and the AFM is still pretty large, still cruise size type of ship. And then the GLM was, I think, the biggest picture for sure. It's like I said, it can hold uh, over 600 volunteers that live on ship, and that doesn't include. They won't live on ship, but whenever we go into a country, we actually hire what we call day crew. So we hire local professionals, IT professionals, or people, wanting to be in those or kind of getting started in their career. So, and we actually pay them. And so they're able to have an income, but also, go out and start their career and have that experience on their resume whenever we leave country. So, yeah, there's just so many things about Mercy ships, and it all kind of like ties together. But yes, Global Mercy is by far the largest ship that we've had.
And you do go inland, you've established that, and obviously for many different reasons. You even said that you have a relationship in these countries prior, right? You don't just show up and
Yeah,
say, "Hey, we're here, come on board." No, there's a relationship and
yeah.
there's, probably advanced work that has taken place. So, but you've also said though that clearly for the vast majority of the population is within reach, so that when you dock the ship, how long are you staying? Are they there for a year, or are we talking months at a time in one
We
location before perhaps it moves to the next country?
our field services are like 10 to 12 months, kind of depending. So we are in country before we actually our ship is there, and getting the word out and everything. And then once we're there for 10 months roughly in the same spot, August through June. And that's whenever we're screening and then performing those surgeries. And, usually we try to do the surgeries that are going to take the longest rehabilitation time first. So that way those patients can stay on our Hope Center, which is usually off ship. We usually, that's my favorite picture. Repurpose a building, and that's where we see patients before their surgery, and then after surgery, they're able to stay there with a family member and rehabilitate before going back home.
This is The Edge of Adventure, and we're talking today about Mercy Ships, and Kylie Best is joining us from this organization. Kylie, what would be maybe challenges that Mercy Ships would face that maybe the average person out here on the outside, we'd have no idea that it takes that much effort to get something like that done? Challenges that might be more behind the scenes.
I would say one thing that shocked me was the building of relationships with a country before we're ever there can take years before we're ever even invited just for a conversation about what we can provide in their country. A lot of countries are skeptical if they don't know who we are, if we've never been a lot of distrust. And so we have to build that trust over time. And then, once we're invited, the advanced work of we have to sign a protocol with that country on what we're going to provide, how many months we're going to be there. And so that, to me, that was the biggest shock whenever I learned about that was, I thought everyone kind of knew mercy ships and it was just we can show up and do our thing and then leave. But it actually takes a lot more than that. A lot of political, over there, they're very political in their governments. Every country is vastly different. And so we have to change our protocols with every country. So to me, that's a huge challenge. And praise God, we have the people that are able to do that with the skills and the patience. Um, and then I would say another big challenge is while people are called to serve with mercy ships and be volunteers, they are giving up their lives. And so it almost feels like every situation is a case by case basis. They have different questions um, of, how do I sell my house or how do I raise a family on board, and it's really something you don't really know the ins and outs until you're there. But we do provide, before long term volunteers go on ship and serve, we have what's called onboarding. It's about like a 6-week program. So they're here at the headquarters learning about, you know, living on a ship in a different country and how to integrate and, maybe the challenges that they'll face with that, missing your family or feeling lonely if they're here by themselves or, whatever it's going to take. And so we try and be proactive rather than reactive. So those are just little things that most people might not think of whenever they think about mercy ships and the mission that we provide.
Kylie Best from Mercy Ships here on the Edge of Adventure. Kylie, other than volunteers, what would be a way that someone could come alongside Mercy Ships and still be of vital help?
Yeah. So we have what we call like give, go, share, pray. So give any way that you can on our mercyships.org. You can actually look at what it costs to provide a certain type of surgery and either donate to that surgery and you can see before and afters of that. Um, go if you or someone might fit into a role or it's just something that they're called to do or they've been looking for a new adventure. We definitely just want to get the word out about mercy ships. And then if you can, if those things you're not able to do, we'd ask that you just pray for us because this is a huge undertaking. And we've definitely been called to do it. And we've been doing it for over 40 years, and we want to continue to do it and serve the nations in West Africa.
You can look them up online at mercyships.org, mercyships.org. Look them up on social media, pretty easy to find across social media at Mercy Ships. And of course, you'll find the corresponding post for this interview online at theedgeofadventure.com. Just look up the podcast page, you'll find it there. And we have the video version, the audio version, all in one place, plus helpful links to all the different platforms. So if you say, you're like, I prefer Spotify or I prefer Google Podcasts or whatever, that's all right there on theedgeofadventure.com. And you can find the platform of your choice, including the brand new, here comes a shameless plug, including the brand new app that I'm so excited to have been able to launch in recent days called Rugged Compass. You can look up Rugged Compass online as well. That's just an app that I've launched. Mercy Ships is thankfully has joined me in that app, and it's just an app where you can keep up with adventure and purpose and all these great organizations doing fantastic things around the world. It's a community of people that care about such things. So anyway, that's the shameless plug. We'll get that out of the way. But to look up Mercy Ships, you can go to their website and That's at mercyships.org. And we've been looking here on the video version at these amazing photos. You guys have a great team of just a media team who've captured the essence of all that Mercy Ships is doing and all that you mean. So, congrats on that, Kylie. Great job today. What else do we
Yeah.
need to know? Anything else that we've left out, and we just we can't finish the interview without making sure we mention.
Yeah, no, I would just say that, if you have any questions, if anyone has any questions about Mercy Ships, obviously we have so much more information on our website, on our social media. It's just a lot of stories, which is usually life changing, even for the people who read it. And then you can always get in contact. Uh, with recruiters, even if it's just about Mercy Ships in general, they can always just answer those questions. You don't have to be applying or anything. If you just want to call and chat about Mercy Ships, we absolutely love to open that door and have those conversations. And all of that information is on our website.
Mercy Ships. That's the name of the organization. Look them up at mercyships.org. Get to know them better. Look them up online. You'll find them on social media, Mercy Ships, and very easy to find. A fantastic, meaningful, inspiring organization. And you won't be sorry if you find out a bit more. And I'm sure as you've listened and watched today, it's been a blessing because there's something about this level of service, and what an honor it is for me to get to talk to people around the world week after week, people that serve in a variety of different ways, in a variety of different organizations, and uh, really helping to change the world. We a lot of people talk about it. We want to change the world, want to see the world changed, and that's a very, very big undertaking, and none of us can do it. None of us can do it, but we can all do something. And it is interesting when you just dedicate yourself to doing that one thing, as Mercy Ships has done for 40 plus years. Then in time, you see that just how that eh, um, influence expands over time. And I think back to the founding of Mercy Ships and probably what the vision was and all that has taken place and all the number of people that have been helped through the years. Through my research, gosh, do you even have any idea how many people we're talking about through the years? Is there any
Yes. So we've had over 2 million lives impacted through surgical care or medical capacity training. Um, and we've done over 100,000 surgeries. So, and then, not to mention the lives that we changed as volunteers, and annually we have roughly around 1,300 rotating volunteers every year. So it's a lot of lives that have been changed. And so that's always encouraging that it just continues to grow.
truly? And then, of course, when you change the life of an individual through one of these surgeries, you're changing the lives of their families and their friends at the same time. So amazing impact. Keep up the great work, Kylie. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your passion for Mercy Ships and in turn for the people around the world who need this kind of help. And thanks to Mercy Ships, it's being delivered. I know you got busy days ahead, big days ahead for Mercy Ships. And as the global Mercy is commissioned and its life and service begins, we'll check back in with you because I want to see how that goes. And it truly
Absolutely.
is a fascinating project.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here and try and spread the word.